This week on Star Trek Discovery, Baba 1 meets the measure of a man, but can it measure up? You are listening to the Star Trek Podcast. Today we'll be reviewing the 7th episode of Star Trek Discovery's 4th season. My name is Jordan, and I'll be your co-host. Joining me as always, it's my co-host, Joselyn. Joselyn? Is that Joselyn's cat, Mr. Giggles? Okay, looks like I'll be doing the show myself today. Be reviewing Season 4, Episode 7, But to Connect. Oh gosh, I just fed you. There's food in your bowl, just eat it. Written by Terry Hughes Burton, Carlos Cisco, and Lee Rose. Tensions rise as representatives from across the galaxy gather to confront the threat of the DMA, aka the Dark Matter Anomaly, aka the DMA. Zora's new sentience raises difficult questions. I guess I will jump into my first impressions. Joselyn?
Yeah.
You're back? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought
sorry.
you just dumped your cat here for me to take care of.
Well, you know how it is. Like, you can't just tell a cat where to be. It is where it wants to be, and that's it. So, that being said, I just threw it outside, and we are on the 3rd floor. So, that should be the end of that.
Good thing it lands on its feet.
Well, we'll see. I will give you my first impression, and that is that I loved this episode. I feel like we got a lot of payoffs for a long period of setups, and I loved it. I loved this episode. Not very many cons for me this week.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I didn't have a ton of notes the first time I watched it. I was rewatching it right before we recorded, as I like to do, and I liked a lot of the episode. I think for me, the last 5 minutes, and then the next time on, or coming soon on Star Trek Discovery, that really saved it for me, because there were a few things here that I didn't love, and it was a little talky, which can be good if it's written well. And this isn't terrible, but it tries to tread on some things that Star Trek has done better in the past, I guess is what I would say. So, but really looking forward to future episodes. It kind of stinks that we have to wait. But, I'm looking forward to the close of this season. And I need to see how many episodes. I think we're getting 12 this season, maybe 13. So we still have quite a ways to go. And I feel like they have set themselves up better this season than, say, like the Red Angel. I think they could pay this off. So just don't drop the ball, Discovery. So,
please, God.
But yeah, let's go into your pros. You said you like this quite a bit. What did you like about this week's episode?
I'll try and keep it limited, but Kovich, I love anytime we get to see Kovich, but in particular, the way he so casually just puts Burnham in her place.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. He was just like, I'm sorry, do you have a doctorate in AI psychology or whatever it was?
I do not.
He was like, yeah, I'm going to do this because you can't do everything. He is like like what I'm saying to the show, and Kovich shows up and just says it, which is great.
He's the voice
he
of the
also
fans.
gets... It's the voice of the fans.
Not the man.
And he also he also gets some of the best lines. His line, "We always mean well for ourselves. The problem is what that means to others," I think, and I might be paraphrasing there, but that I was like, whoa, truth, man. That was pretty good. Some of the fashion at that assembly was so good. I'll just list my tops. The Orion delegate had this kind of spiky, white and blue, fuzzy shrug on.
Yeah.
And I loved that look. There was this red and orange kind of ruched and ruffled dress with a nude illusion in the center. And I don't know what delegate that was, but they brought it. And then there was this very simple, yellowish floor length, tunic dress that one of the delegates he was wearing. Oh my God. And the Ferengi came dressed to impress as well. One of my favorite Ferengi looks of all time. It's just, I've been missing some of the fashion. We've been getting a lot of uniforms and away mission, dark, black, metallic leather stuff, which is great. But I just think this episode, Gersha Phillips and her team just knocked it out of the park. And that is a sports reference. And you're welcome, everyone.
And it's kind of, it's good that the Orion delegate is a female, because, that means that, in the past, Star Trek, typically Orion females are slave girls. So,
Right, yes. And love interests for whoever the acting captain is.
Yes, that too.
Which could complicate, Burnham and Book's relationship. And it's already complicated enough, so we don't need that. I felt like the construction of this episode, where you had this meeting of delegates to decide the fate of the DMA, and then this meeting between some top brass on Disco on the crew deciding the fate of Zora, in both very complicated situations, both really important, and then how they kind of all came to a head at the same moment, where you had Burnham giving her speech and Stamets giving his speech. I thought that was really well thought out and put together. I totally bought into it. I just thought maybe I'm just really into talky Trek. I like when they talk a lot. I like when I like the nuance of it. I like the subtlety of it. I like the conversations they're having, because they're really interesting, and they're not things that happen in our daily lives, but there are parallels to what's happening now. And that's like peak Trek for me. And that's been consistent throughout TNG, DS9, Voyager, TOS. You don't get a lot of that in TOS, to be honest, but that was its own thing, and it's great. And now we're kind of moving on. So, and then speaking of, yeah. No?
Yeah, no, I agree. I like, I think a lot of people got into Star Trek in the Next Generation era, and there are tons of scenes or examples where, Picard is just talking to the crew in his ready room, where people are talking in 10-4, just those off-duty conversations or on-duty conversations.
Yeah.
And, those characters so well, so it works really well when they're having those conversations, and what their stance is on things, and those conversations that they have. And, like Measure of a Man is a great example of, that is a very talky bottle episode.
Yes.
And there are a ton of episodes like that. But I think with those characters, we had more time for things to develop a lot more.
For sure.
So,
and I think that's why it was Stamets and Culber and Saru in that room, because those are the people on the crew that we really do know the best.
Sure. Yeah.
And
I think
we'll get to the rest of the crew in my cons.
More specifically, like Zora and her evolution has happened. They hint at it. We see the short trek, which kind of ties the hands of this episode a bit. Mm-hmm. And then they've been hinting at it more like the last 2-3 weeks. And now, this is getting into con territory, so we'll talk about that later. But yeah, there's some things I liked about that, but it was a little much at some times. So.
I thought Burnham's speech was really good. And I think it was really good, not just because of how she delivers it, which I am a big fan of Sonequa Martin Green. I personally love the way she portrays this captain. This is a captain we haven't had before, and I really love it. But also there was subtext to the speech. She was saying one thing, and it was very obvious. And then the subtext of it was her relationship with Book. And can we save this? Can we move forward with these differences? And I'm cool with that. I don't want to launch into a 7-season arc of the will they, won't they, stay together thing. Yeah. But I don't think that's what they're going to do to us. I don't think they're going to Niles and Daphne us.
Oh, God.
Because that's torture. But I like it. And we'll get more on Book. I have so many pros. We have to keep going. But I am fully on board with the Zora thing now. For me, they have really brought it home in this episode. We were building up to this, and I'm really glad that we went down this road. I do have a neutral zone comment about that in a moment. But first, Saru has a girlfriend, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. He gave her a little flower.
They're exchanging more than just glances at this point.
I know. It is so cute. Okay. I do I do want to get the show on the road. Like, I want to like get into this relationship. Like, Saru is hot, Tarina of Navarre is hot. Let's get these crazy kids together. Like, they are, for me, they are the Mr. Bingley and Jane Bennett of Star Trek, and I can't wait to see how this.
Is that Jane
absolutely.
Austen, or is that Downton Abbey?
It's Jane Austen. Okay. It's Pride and Prejudice.
I should know that. Okay.
They're not the Darcy and Elizabeth here.
Okay.
But they very much are the Bingley and Jane. And that's a relationship that's like not as tumultuous, very slow burning. It's a courtship, really. We're getting like fancy old school courtship here, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. You're shipping the courtship.
We're getting a court starship. I don't know. And then you already mentioned, but my final pro that I wrote down is the ending. I am into it. Book allowing his grief to like catapult him into the open, welcoming arms of toxic masculinity. It was foreshadowed, and they put the time in, and here we are. And it was kind of a surprise, but also it's exciting. And I think it set us up for like that really good cliffhanger. And I don't know how I'm going to wait until February to see how this all pans out, but I like it. I like a flawed character. And Book has not had any significant flaws to this point.
Except everyone he knows dies.
It is his only flaw. And that's more on the show.
And his nephew can't act at all.
Yeah, it's a family.
Yeah.
Family thing. It's so bad. But Book himself, flawless, and now he's making some really crap decisions, and I'm here for it because that's what I want. I want characters who make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're getting. And I'm interested to see how that pans out. Those are my pros. I have a neutral zone. And I don't want to sound like an emotionally unstable, hysterical woman over here, but I can't help but wonder if the conversation around like what to do about Zora and her would have sounded differently if she were a he. Like, would we still get the conversation around like the getting emotional and firing off a bunch of torpedoes if Zora was a he? It kind of reminded me of the arguments that I would hear growing up about why a woman could never be president because she would get her period and like nuke Russia or something. And is it a coincidence that tampons are shaped exactly like cruise missiles? I don't know. That's a conversation we can have, but it just was interesting because I think Stamets has some misogynistic traits. And again, I'm here for it because I love a flawed character and I think he is flawed. I do want to say...
You might be reading a little too much into this.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Are you calling me hysterical?
Yeah, I don't think that since it is a computer that the gender really matters in this particular instance, since it is like an unknown evolving. It just happens to have a woman's voice, but there's no
They're referring
gender
to her as she. It was very clear in the conversation.
Kind of, like Enterprise is a she, Zora.
But if you think back to the malicious computers we've had to date in Star Trek, more often than not, they're he's.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're very clear about their desire to end like people, basically.
Yeah.
And we're not getting that with Zora. We're getting, and I think it's purposeful that it's a she, and they're trying to imbue her with like some protective traits. But it's just funny. I just don't know that it would have been so much like, what if she gets emotional and just kills a bunch of people? Like, that was just an interesting conversation. It's neutral zone. It's neutral zone for a reason. And I do want to say that I love that the solution to the question of whether we should extract her consciousness and put it in a physical body, that was only brought into question. Basically, the solution to that was that Kovich was not going to do that just because Stamets was having an issue with Zora remaining as the computer. And And Kovic said that basically his solution was going to be that Stamets would have to be relocated and not Zora, relocated to a physical
Oh,
body.
you like that? Okay.
I love that. And I think that was appropriate. And I think more of that just in general.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I see that as basically a not so veiled metaphor for the way that we treat women in general, where it's like, you're the problem, so you have to get like reassigned or moved because you're having, and it's like, no, maybe the person who can't like get with the program should be moved.
I don't mind the metaphor, but I think in the context of the episode, I did not. I'll get into that a little bit more, but yeah.
Maybe. And then last neutral zone, I just want to make this really clear because I think people have an issue with Zora being sentient. They have an issue with Zora being emotional. I just want to say that like emotional sentient computers are a long-standing tradition for Star Trek. There's lore, there's Landru from TOS, there's the nanites that...
Return of the Archons?
Exactly. Wesley Crusher got the nanites going in TNG, and that was a problem. There was the probe from DS9 that Miles O'Brien had to like, it was like a childlike.
There's Nomad, there's V'ger.
There's Nomad, there's Egamus from Lower Decks, which I know is
like
newer.
At least 50 to 60% of those are evil and tried to kill everyone, Jocelyn. So you're not...
True. But they still like handled them with like, they weren't
Some
like...
of them, they just blew up.
Yes, and sometimes you have to do that. But I'm just saying, maybe I think it is significant that Zora is a she, and I think that's why it's being handled differently. And I also think that's the reason for some of the vitriol against basically her as character.
Interesting.
And I'm here for it, just for myself. And those are my pros.
Okay.
Do you have any pros?
I do. I have probably my favorite pro I'll lead off with is Tarka's description of politicians. He basically says they're like some type of sulfur slugs, small-brained meat sacks filled with hot gas, which is like great. He also says they're a means to an end. So, I mean, he obviously understands the game, but just like his description was so good. Burnham references voles. And she's not talking about people who attend the University of Tennessee. She's talking about like the little creatures from Deep Space Nine that kind of look like they look like a mix between a rat and a cat, and they get in the circuits and eat certain things in the ship. So It's just cool to have anything that's referenced to Deep Space Nine. Saru,
for sure,
being shocked by Stamets asking for a group hug, because of course he would be, because Stamets is asking for a group hug. I thought that scene was pretty funny. Saru being just an absolute lady killer, like what a thoughtful gift that he shows up with, and his little description.
Oh my goodness.
Of the plant, and that it makes the tea that she gave him, and it's like perfect for the environment, the hot deserty climate of Nefar, and
Oh my goodness. I can't wait. I want this to happen so badly.
I wish Saru was in the episode more than 2 minutes. It's been my problem with Saru this whole season. Is he's arguably the best character, and he's used about as much as the other bridge character. And I misspoke last week because I called him Lieutenant Commander. He's still a captain. He's just not the captain of Discovery.
And I was reminded in watching his interview with Will Wheaton in the Roadie Room that he did ask the crew to call him Mr.
He
Saru.
did, yes. He did. Yep.
So, and I had forgotten that, and I think we were talking about it last week.
I think Burnham suggested it.
Oh.
She says, how about Mr. Saru? And he's like, I like that. So, once again, Burnham just coming up with all the answers, Jocelyn.
Yeah, I
know. I too like kind of the tension that, it's been building between Book and Burnham, and this disagreement that they have comes to a head. And he's off. I think we're headed towards a new chapter for Burnham and Book because they can't seem to get on the same page. And this next episode could prove to be a major bookend. But I wasn't done.
Okay.
But okay, you can insert the drums.
I should have waited.
I can keep going. It's interesting that Earth is still not part of the Federation. I believe they mentioned that there's 16 member worlds right now. They also mentioned that Titan is part of the Earth Alliance or whatever they're calling it.
Yeah.
It looks like there is a good many, like 100+ delegates at this meeting as well. It's kind of hard to tell because of the set, which I'll talk about a little bit more. In Neutral Zone, I am interested to find out who Tarka was talking about, like who his friend is from this not mirror universe, but this alternate universe, because he specifically says like it's not the mirror universe as we know it. It's a different universe that didn't have the burn and didn't have all these other things, and how he got here. And obviously he's trying to get back, which seems like kind of his driving force.
I forgot to mention, but that scene did like make me like him a tad bit.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I saw
it makes
now
me feel
we know his
Evil.
motivation.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not pure evil. He's
just motivated for one.
He's just a full out narcissist.
Yeah.
And classically, those are really difficult to manage personalities.
Yeah. I kind of mentioned this before in my kind of the intro when we talk about our first impressions. I have more faith in Discovery paying off the DMA and species 10C is what we're going with, I guess.
I guess
there's so many species, and we're in the 31st century, and we're at 10C. Like, we had 8472, which I guess is the Borg designation, but I feel like we should be way up there in the numbers. 10C seems real small, but
yeah, unless C is a stand-in for like a Roman numeral, is it?
I think so.
I know there's I's and X's and
V's
L's and V's, but I don't know about
there
C.
Is a C. If it is, I don't know which number it represents. But yeah, I have more faith in that than I did with the Red Angel and the previous story arcs that they've done. So, and I think Jeremy talks about that in his comment as well. Is like he's usually more on board with the first half Discovery, and they kind of drop the ball in the second half. Whereas this season's been a slow build, and it looks like the second half should be really good. At least the next episode looks good. I'm not sure what they're going to do with the rest of the season, but I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I watched the Next Time On trailer popped up. I did not watch the Ready Room.
I was so glad for that.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's the mid-season finale, and they had to let people know, like, hey, this is the mid-season finale because the communication.
Whatever happened to the next week trailer? I feel like we
you
always
have to watch
got
an after show to get a
with
glimpse,
shows.
And it's not even a trailer.
I know,
it's like a 30-second clip from usually the beginning of the next episode, and
yeah, it's just a scene. But like, I want Next Time On, Star Trek: The Next Generation. Like, we always got Next Time On, and I don't mean just for Star Trek. I mean any show I'm watching right now. It's like you've already filmed all the episodes. You can put a trailer together and show me next week.
Especially in this capacity where it's not like a binge where they drop all of them at once. You're going week to week. So, yeah.
Also, why aren't you dropping all the episodes at once? Why are we doing this to people?
Jocelyn.
Stringing them along week to week.
Paramount Plus. The plus is the money.
I want it all or nothing at all.
It should just be called Paramount $. Yeah. They're literally doing a mid-season finale of Discovery. Well, Prodigy's on break. Then they're going to bring Prodigy back and then have Discovery. And they made this big deal about Prodigy and Discovery being on at the same time.
Yeah,
everything's complete.
Paramount.
And now they're putting it on hiatus until they can stretch it out further. So, we know why. Neutral Zone-wise, the dramatic beaming continues to where they're having this speech and then Book beams up there. Right after Tarka beams up there. So, like, anyone can beam anywhere at any time. And, like, I don't want to see really a scene of them taking the stairs, per se. But it just takes a lot of air out of the room when they're just constantly beaming in. Also, not to mention, like, the security risk that poses, that anyone can beam right next to the President at any moment. Like, come on.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right.
And Tarka's not even a delegate?
What is he doing there?
Yeah.
What is Tarka doing at this assembly?
I guess he's like
arguably
the lead
what is Book doing?
Expert on the DMA at this point, so I can understand that. But the fact that he can just beam up there and start talking, and the president's like, go on. Like, okay. Well, I think we should just kill everyone. Continue. I like Kovich. I know he's in your pros, but it seems that he's just an expert and an authority on whatever the plot requires that week. Because he's gone from being like the lead interrogator with Georgiou and being like not knowing if he's nefarious or if he's from a mirror universe. And then he's
Which I
telling
loved.
Tilly, like, hey, you're going to be in charge of the cadets this week. And then
I
he's
don't know
like
why he was at the academy.
hiring
to be
her for a
honest. That was
job
weird.
for a Starfleet
Yeah.
academy. And then this week he tells us he's an expert on AI systems, but he's also like a counselor as well.
I think what's consistent is he is some kind of psychologist, psychiatrist, mental, health expert, mind guy. But that's probably too complicated to put on a resume, so.
Yeah, I'm just saying, and to this point, like, it's getting a little excessive, but if next week he's on and he's an expert on something else, I'm like, oh, okay, well, unless we get some explanation that he's actually 200 years old and he's been in the Federation for forever and he's just, used his time wisely, because to be quite frankly, if we all used our time better, we could be experts in a lot more things.
We could be experts in a lot of things.
Like, I should know at least 3 or 4 languages at this point, but I don't.
I was going to say, it's been almost 2 years of a pandemic and I still don't know Spanish, and that's on me. That is on me.
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
Discovery also, I didn't really know where to put this. They love reintroducing characters that had 45 seconds of screen time in previous episodes. Like the butterfly guys there, the girl who, I guess the delegate from Earth and Titan, who I barely remember from the bad episode of the Scooby-Doo episode with the Swede and he gets unveiled. So I barely remember these characters. Like, oh, it's you from that. It's like, wait, who is this person? When you meet someone at dinner and they're like, oh, hi, it's like, nice to meet you. It's like, we met before. Like, oh,
we've met before.
Crap.
Yeah.
That happened to me recently. Like, yeah, I met you twice. I was like, okay. Because I'm usually pretty good. Like, if I meet someone, I remember I'm usually the one being like, oh, we've met before, but not in a condescending
Maybe you're
way.
just a little more important than you were before.
I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not.
You're very popular.
It's also a bit of a stretch, and this is where I get into the Zora side of things. I have some more of my cons as well. Basically, Gray is comparing being a synth, and Adira is comparing being the first human Trill host to being a developed AI integrated to a starship capable of getting everyone on board killed in an instant with a bad decision. She's like, well, I'm one of the first synths. Like, no, you're not, because Picard was the first one that we saw, and I'm sure there's been plenty of other species that have had synthetic technology.
One of.
No, she said, I was the first, or I'm the only. And then she's like, I'm the first human Trill. That's way different. I understand that they're unique and they're individuals,
then
but they don't have the power over the entire ship.
They don't know their Starfleet history, and that's sad.
And they're not withholding information that could be potentially, life-ending for entire planets and species going forward. So it's completely different. I understand what they were going for there, but I didn't quite buy that. The assembly hall.
But Greytall has really been bonding with Zora.
For one episode, Jocelyn. They have literally played one game together and had
there were like 2 scenes, Jordan.
Yeah, and that's part of my problem I'll talk about later. I mean, the assembly hall too, like that set, if that's what the AR wall is going to be, like give me a real set with a table and some chairs over this any day of the week. I also feel this season is pretty heavy-handed with and I get it, but the COVID analogies were like people needing to work together and not knowing how to work because they've been socially distant for so long. And it's usually Star Trek would do like a COVID episode. It's like, okay, this is what we're going to talk about this week. We're going to talk about distancing and the issues that this brings up. This has been like a whole season of like COVID parallels, and like I'm living in that, so I don't want to see it on every. And it's not just Discovery; it's almost every show you watch.
It's a lot of shows
deals with it, and it partly because they have to film things a certain way during COVID, and this was filmed probably during the height of the pandemic. So I get it.
Yes,
but it's a little much, and I'm kind of over that as a storytelling device at this point. So,
girl, you're telling me.
Yes, but that's all my neutral zones.
Too much COVID in my daily life.
I could only imagine. So let's move to your cons, Jocelyn.
I have a few, and one of them, the first one, is we lost Tilly, and now it has every appearance that we're gonna lose Greytall, And Greytall is not as much of an established character as Tilly, and I probably won't miss him as much, but like, they spent all this time building him as a character this season, and now you're just gonna like ship him off?
That's basically just Discovery's MO at this point. Like they build up Lorca and they build up
And I don't know why
Tyler
they do this.
and Tilly and Nan and Plateface.
It looks like we're gonna get more Nan next.
A little spoilery, but
Did you see that little
was in the trailer for what's coming up. So it looks like we will see.
I was kind of excited about that. I mean, if they're playing a long game and we're going to get like 10 seasons of this show and like, then I get it. But right now I'm having a scarcity issue.
Yeah.
And the scarcity issue is we're a little bit low on characters that I can invest in emotionally. And every time you do that to me as a show, then you take them away.
Yeah.
And, that's rough. So just a note.
I heard they're bringing in George R. R. Martin to write season 5, so I think we're...
Stop it. Oh, my God.
That's obviously a joke.
Goodbye,
George R. R.
everyone.
Martin could not write a season of TV in less than 10 years. Ooh, take that, George.
Ooh,
write at your own pace, George. You do you.
Yeah, you burned them. I got a little excited about the idea of Zora being extracted into a body. Like when they...
I did too,
And I was like, oh my God, are we going to get... And then I was a little disappointed when I realized that was not going to happen.
I thought... I don't want to reference the show too much, but Andromeda, which is another project that Gene Roddenberry worked on, starring Kevin Sorbo. Not a great sci-fi show, I guess, but interesting premise, and didn't come out till after Gene Roddenberry's passing, I believe. But there's an AI component to the ship, but she manifests in like a holographic like body. Like she shows up as a physical person, but just a holographic projection. I thought they could do something like that with Zora, but I guess it kind of undermines the story that they're telling with her being this unique AI integrated.
Right.
So we just get the little talky face on the computer screen.
But I was excited. But then I realized like we don't need another bridge crew that gets no screen time.
Yeah.
We don't we already have that. And they really, 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 I would prefer them to invest in the crew that we have because they are good before introducing like a new physical crew member.
This is true.
But it was still like a little disappointing to me. And then that leads into my final con bridge crew. Where are you? They give you nothing to do.
Yeah. I'm kind of okay with it this week because both stories being told. I don't really see anyone on the bridge crew coming.
This week made sense.
This point, you kind of
Absolutely.
Hadira kind of is part of the bridge crew.
Yes. Engineering.
But yeah, and then we do get like that action shot in the coming later of the bridge crew and like their black tactical suits. So that's part of what excited me. It looks like
we're gonna get some more.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't think we've had, aside from Awoshkin going to Terra Elysium, I don't know that we've had a bridge crew member, and I guess Reese last week going on an away mission. Have we seen any of the other crew members like on an away mission other than talking outside of Starfleet Academy, outside a tree for 30 seconds?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Been very few examples.
I want like casual time with the bridge crew. I want to see their families. I want to see them.
No, I will say that all their families are dead for one.
No, that's true.
But I am vehemently opposed at this point to bringing in family members of the bridge crew. They are family. They're each other's family.
They are family. They are family.
I just want,
can we just get them
with other
in
people, aliens?
Yeah, exactly.
Other people on the crew. Bring
lead.
Linus back. Something.
Linus, yeah.
He's like comedic gold.
He is comedic gold. Yeah, I just want more bridge crew. And I'm hoping that that's a message they're getting loud and clear. And it's a compliment to the bridge crew. I think they've chosen like really good actors and characters for the bridge. And now we just need to focus on them a little more, like settle in. Maybe we're going to be here for a few seasons. It's like season 4. It's an established show. We can experiment a little bit. We're not going to forget about Burnham.
No.
Anyway, those are basically my cons. What do you have?
Yeah, I guess I had this in two sections. Neutral zone, I think I moved it to cons, but forgot to delete it. The dramatic beaming, talked about that with Tarka and Book and the security threat that presents. If they start talking about trade routes next week, I'm out. Because like this delegate scene,
why?
like it got borderline boring and was a very lengthy portion of the episode. And I thought that Book's speech was good and Burnham's speech was good, but there's just a lot going on there. And Tarka's speech was good too, but it just had like that prequel vibe of all the delegates in their pods in this big circular fashion, and that's not what I want to Star Trek to retread. And I think Jeremy even mentioned like the graphics look about as good as the prequels this week with the AR wall, and everything's white. Like every room, everything we see is just all white. I would like to see some different constructions, some different colors being used. Just give me something. I like the room that we had last week or 2 weeks ago when we had that episode where, Saru and Burnham are helping out and they have like this table and it's on Navarre and we see the background of the planet instead of just like really a big white conference room.
Right. That was really cool. And I know, again, because I watched the Ready Room, they had a lot of limitations. They could only have a certain number of characters on set at a time. And so they did have to use a lot of CGI to like replicate people and make it look full. And I get that, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's a very sterile environment.
Indeed. And most conference halls and rooms are, but this is the future.
Sure.
The Zora arc to this point, I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's played out way too quickly. And the fact that everyone is fine with it except for Stamets, but even he's won over pretty quickly, especially after having an entire season about a nefarious AI that almost killed everyone in the known galaxy. And that's where Stamets is coming from, as he even talks to like Adira and Gray. He's like, you weren't around for control, so I don't expect you to understand.
Yeah.
Which, probably not the right way to go about things. But trying to compare Adira's situation and Gray's situation to Zora, I don't think is a good analogy. They're both unique individuals. Zora's something completely different and also a program and a computer that's kind of been introduced to all this data and is evolving. Zora's more like a computer that's like a kid that's becoming sentient and starting to learn. It's like a kid with a ton of knowledge. Also, just because Zora has emotions, that doesn't mean that she's good, because they're talking about control. They're like, well, control never had emotions. Like, just because you have emotions, that's not inherently good. People act out with their emotions and do bad things because of their emotions constantly.
Also, people tend to forget that anger is an emotion.
Correct, yes.
So we should hesitate before not ascribing emotion when the only emotion there is anger, destroy.
Yeah.
Like, that's an emotion.
And she almost got the ship destroyed last week by her inaction. She's also disobeying a direct order this week and withholding potentially really important information.
Yeah.
So that's a problem as well.
Yep. She needs to be put on a disciplinary plan for sure.
She does. And instead, they let her join Starfleet.
Well, it gives her the structure, and now they can discipline her.
Well, not like they couldn't before.
That's good, yeah?
So Gray and Adira advocating, I talked about this a little bit, for Zora's nice, but they've both had maybe one interaction with Zora. Gray has, I don't know if Adira has. And it's come over the last 2 episodes. Whereas you look at Measure of a Man, you had probably 30, 35 episodes with Data and the crew and the relationship with Data. And we've seen that truly evolve over time.
Yeah.
And that's very much, a good example of a bottle episode that's extremely well written and compelling. And then you throw in kind of the wrench of Riker having to speak against Data. So it's just very compelling. Whereas this is not very compelling because everyone's just won over and was like, yeah, Zora, that's fine. Like,
it's can very just fast and
join
easy
Starfleet.
Almost.
And if you kill us all, like, I guess we were wrong. Yeah, everything is just so expedited. I would say.
Yeah. True.
Additionally, Colin, like, none of the delegates really stand out this week with their dialogue. Like, we get a few lines from them, like Butterfly Guy's like, yeah, I was mean, and then you guys did something good, so now I think we should all be good. It's like, okay, well, that's compelling TV.
I do like his look, though, Butterfly Man.
Yeah.
It's a cool look.
Makes me look
like arguably
tan.
it's
I would say, again, and you had this in your pros, Kovic telling Stamets that he was going to reassign him if he disagreed with his assessment of Zora, I think is way overkill, because Stamets is like actually bringing up something that they should be discussing, like, is Zora Skynet or is she like Data 2.0?
right.
And he has some real concerns, and they're like, oh, you have concerns? We'll just reassign you to another ship. Like, I don't think that's the right, I think people can disagree without someone being like, oh, well, you don't agree with us, you're just getting reassigned. I think that's ridiculous. And I don't think Stamets was coming from a place of being unreasonable. I could see if Stamets is unreasonable and he wants to hit the kill switch right away, that's probably a problem. Because that's kind of juxtaposed to what Tarka's talking about and hitting the kill switch on the DMA, which I agree with more, because the DMA has actually destroyed an entire planet, but they don't quite understand what it is. So I agree with them in trying to find a peaceful solution first and at least make contact, because this species might be so advanced that it doesn't even know what it did, or it may not be. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll find out more. So I agree with that. I don't completely disagree with Tarka's idea of destroying the DMA, because it is literally just showing up randomly throughout the galaxy and destroying millions and billions of people at a time. But to have Kovic talking to Stamets in a way that, like, hey, you don't agree with us with Zora, because it's not like Stamets wanted to kill Zora. He just didn't want her to have complete control over the ship in the state that she's in, because she's not emotionally stable at this point. Like, she is withholding information. She is not following orders, and almost got them killed last week. So, like, I'm with Stamets on this one. If I had something in control over my life and everyone I knew was in a ship, and the computer's like, nah, I don't feel like doing that, or I'm too scared to do this, that's not what I want from the computer. And Kovic even says, like, Starfleet has rules against sentient AI being in charge of operations, which makes sense. And this is,
it makes sense as a rule.
They get around by saying this is a unique situation, but I think Zora should maybe be taken out of her current role as controlling everything, and maybe be allowed to, like, explore things and grow outside of being the controlling entity of the ship at this point. It seems very dangerous to have an emotionally unstable, evolving, new sentient being that can potentially get everyone killed in an instant to be in charge of everything.
See, I don't even see her as emotionally unstable. I see her as following her core programming.
But who gave her core programming?
Realize
she did.
Or the sphere somehow.
Well, they even ask her.
Connected.
She says, what is your core programming? She says, to keep Discovery safe. You said, who gave you that core programming? She said, I did. It's like, you don't even know where this is coming from. And her growth seems to be coming from the sphere data, which is collected from tons of different species over an immense amount of time. So you don't even know what's in that data. And that's what she's basing her, her entire being and existence around. So I just think it's completely within reason for Stamets to be questioning Zora. And then they reward her by being like, hey, you're part of Starfleet now, and you get to keep your job. And we'll get Stamets out of here if he disagrees. Like, I don't know. I think that's a little much. Had the story developed more and we know who Zora is, like, obviously I watch Measure of Man and I'm fighting for Data, and I want Data to be,
yes, of course,
looked upon and viewed by Starfleet as a sentient being, because we've seen him grow from what he is. But if you gave me Data in episode 1 and you tried to do Measure of Man in episode 2, I don't know that it had the same feelings. So... And Data didn't also just try to kill someone, or his inaction. I guess there are examples of Data withholding information, but it makes sense to the plot and they explain it. So with Zora, I don't know. It's interesting to see where it goes, but I just have not. I think I said this last week, so I'm just echoing my sentiments from last week. Is I don't really like the Zora storyline so far. I think it can be interesting. I think it could go somewhere, and maybe it would help if there was more of like a physical presence, so we could get to know. But right now, she's just an AI.
It's hard to conceptualize her,
which is probably part of the story, and
which
it's a
is
sci-fi
our issue.
story.
Yeah, not her issue.
But there's a long track record of sentient AI being evil, and I'm just saying I'm a little
that might color the opinion. Yeah, for sure. Especially in a computer form.
If Siri,
but also on
my phone, is giving me bad directions on Apple Maps, I'm going to use Google Maps. Or I'm just going to pull out an old-fashioned map.
You're going to end her.
No, I'm not.
Get out of here, sir.
I'm just not going to give her control over my everyday life. I might,
you're gonna kill switch
disable her for a little bit or run an update. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We're on different sides of the fence on that one. But we'll see how it plays out. I guess it's time, Jocelyn, unless you have any other comments, to see what the fans thought of this week's episode. And I'm going to warn you.
Oh?
It's not pretty. It is not pretty.
It's not pretty?
No.
Oh, my. Well, let's get to it then. I'll start out. Wayne Fraser says, at the end of the episode, they mentioned Discovery is not back till February 10, and I'm okay with that. I did not like this episode at all. Correction, I thought the B plot with Zora was fine, but the A plot to me was awful. Trek at its best is conversations about politics, political conversations, you get the drift. So an A plot focused on that aspect of Trek can be great. However, I thought this was a terribly written episode which didn't give the actors anything to work with. Add to that the virtual sets and bad dialogue, and I kept getting Star Wars prequel vibes. Ooh.
Wow. I was not aware.
That's a Burnham. I'm not sure my opinion is in line with reviews. I've seen online, but this did nothing for me. Actually, it made me less interested in the closing run of episodes. All right, Wayne Fraser. Not pulling any punches.
Interesting. Yeah, Doug.
That phaser isn't set to stun.
Ooh. Jeremy Reed says Doug Jones is an incredible talent, perhaps even the greatest talent on Discovery, which is saying a lot. So why is he getting the Travis Mayweather treatment? That is a Enterprise reference, Jocelyn. Travis Mayweather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, even if you had watched Enterprise, you still
was he the first in command
not know
guy?
who he is. No, he is the con officer who's a boomer. He was born in space, and that's about all you know about him in 4 seasons.
Well, I don't know anything about him.
And he knows where the sweet spot on the ship is. Which I'm not even going to
pooping bathroom is?
Not even going to fill you in on what that means.
Okay.
Give my boy something to do. Wayne Fraser is dead on about the Star Wars feel. They set out to look like The Mandalorian, but instead they look more like the prequels. It's like I'm going to your uncle's house and seeing his 72-inch 4K Sony widescreen and being told, don't worry, you're getting a high-def TV for Christmas too. Only to find out it's a 720p 36-inch Westinghouse. Sure, it's high def, but I'm sure as hell it ain't good as Uncle Kenny's TV. I like Zora's. Okay, I'll stop there and
I'm lost.
Jeremy
I don't know what any of this
is
means.
dead on. Because 4K right now is high definition, unless you have 8K, but there's nothing really 8K. And Westinghouse is probably the worst TV brand I could think of off the top of my head. RCA and Westinghouse right now. I used to sell
Doesn't Westinghouse
TVs.
just make guns?
I think you're thinking of Winchester, maybe. But 720p is technically high definition, but it's the lowest form of high definition. It's more like watching standard definition on a 72-inch 4K TV. It looks atrocious. But yeah, Westinghouse, a bad TV. Wow. If you have one, I'm sorry. Polaroid also makes horrible TVs. Anyways, sure it's high def, but it sure as hell ain't so good as Uncle Kenny's TV. I like Zora's stuff okay, and always enjoy Kovic and Saru/Tarina Sparks. I don't know, maybe it's me, but something is off in the first half. I find myself far more excited for Picard, Lower Decks, and Strange New Worlds. I still have faith of the heart that the second half will bring me back, but that's the opposite way I've felt in prior seasons, where my favorite moments are in the first half. Just like with Zora, though, I'm not ready to hit the kill switch yet. 5. A 5, we should all be like Book in this new year and leave our grudges behind. P.S. Even in a room of 100 different delegates, Michael still whispered her winning speech, which I actually rewatched the scene. I don't think she whispered.
Yeah.
I think she talked at normal volume, and I was fine with that.
I think she talked at normal volume. I think she talks at normal volume. I think
No. She does not always.
I think,
She
sometimes
speaks a lot in hushed tones.
when you bring that much power to a situation, you don't have to speak loudly. Isn't it John Wayne who said, speak softly and carry a big stick?
Might have been Lincoln, but yeah, I think John Wayne.
Well, whatever. One of those historical figures that we're
almost the same
mostly
person.
wrong about. Anyway, she doesn't have to yell.
Okay, never mind. I'm not going to get your problems with. I will say, I lost my train of thought. I will say she does whisper a lot, and I could see like they need to do an episode where Michael whispers something, and one of the crew members just completely does the wrong thing. She's like, "Why the heck did you do that?" I was like, "I couldn't hear you." It's like the low talker episode in Seinfeld, where it's like Jerry agrees to wear a pirate outfit because he doesn't know what she's saying. Like, I want that in Discovery.
Oh my God.
Anyways.
All right, last fan comment is from William Jenks, and William says, "Just because I didn't care for most of this episode doesn't make it bad. It just wasn't my favorite flavor of Trek. I did not care for the Zora arc, at least as far as it has gone so far. I do understand the point they are trying to make about recognizing new beings, etc., but the crew, apart from Stamets, just seem impossibly credulous, and they really hit us over the head with it, too. Maybe I'd have been less annoyed if everyone weren't so gung-ho about letting Zora, take over so fast. They did this story better with Data, but I'll give it a chance. Maybe there's some good plot twists to come. On the visuals, I did like the first few shots of the multi-level conference, but I agree with Wayne and Jeremy that after all that, it wasn't much to look at. The best part of the episode was the last couple of minutes. I think we are all set up now for what could be a very interesting conflict involving at least 3 parties. I'm looking forward to that, for sure. 4. 4 digits in 2001 and 4 letters in Data.
Right on both counts.
All right.
All right, Dawson. We've heard what the fans have to say. Now it's time for us to rate this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery. What do you give? But to connect. Not the greatest episode title either, I will say.
No, very... Anytime you put "but" in a title, like you're just asking for it. But before I give my rating...
we have somewhere to go.
I think there's somewhere to go. We need to go. Do you want to get the turbo loaf with me?
If I have to.
All right, let's go down. Let's go down into the basement. Or as Cisco would say...
You don't know what any of this is about, do you?
So...
It's real!
Into the basement. I scour the Disco IMDb page for only the finest, most poignant 1-star reviews. And this week, Batman Forever, 9324931, has...
Didn't we have a Batman guy before?
It's possible. Okay. Yeah, but it wasn't Batman Forever. It was like some combination of bat and nuts, I'm sure. Okay. Anyway, in an epic self-own, Batman Forever has this comment. Batman says, "Well, it's enough woke garbage in this show, so I won't try to repeat what other mates are saying. I just want to ask, why are they changing all the races from Star Trek? I hate the new Klingons, the new Cardassians, the new Ferengi. I hate the new Andorians. And I saw in the trailer they're changing even the Jem'Hadar, which, why? Because they're so perfect. So why?" Anyway, he goes on. And I'm not really willing to go there with him. So I just wanted to say to Batman Forever 9324931 that based on your Scream name being a combination of your favorite movie and the number of the cell phone that you got for Christmas from your parents this year, I want to say that if you're unsure why races 930 years into the Star Trek future might look different, this is maybe a conversation for when you're older. But on the off chance that you don't have parents that'll explain to you, I'll give it a try. I'm a medical person, so I feel like I can help you with this. You see, when a Ferengi and a Bajoran love each other very much, and the Ferengi puts their what's-it into the Bajoran's hee-haw, a series of chromosomes duke it out for dominance, and they produce a new combination of it, physical traits that are, I guess, unique to that individual, and that then that individual grows up, and when they love another individual very much, it just goes on and on and on as things are replicated. I don't really know how this has eluded you your whole life, but I guess that's all I can say. Just ask your parents for more details if you need to, Batman. So, and Jordan, I guess for a good time, call 932-4931.
Yeah, what's the area code for Batman? You got to pick the worst Batman movie to date as your like. What did he give Batman Forever?
What is the Gotham area code? I think it's 911.
It's probably or just probably 555.
Just flash your bat signal. Yeah, sorry, I don't have a answer for much more than that, but sometimes it's.
I will agree with Batman on a couple points where some of the new makeup does not. I understand changing things, updating things, but some of it does not look better than even 20, 30 year, I guess, makeup or technology from years ago. Like the Orion's skin tone we talked about. The Andorians look a little funky. The Tellarite was not great. But yeah, overall, things are going to change. Species are going to look different. We haven't really... I don't think we've seen a Klingon in the 31st century.
We have not.
30 seconds?
No, I don't think so. And honestly, I'm excited. Like... What do we want here? Do we want the Klingon from the original series where it's just kind of like some eyebrow action and a look of violence in the eyes?
Like a slightly browned face?
Right, exactly. Are you missing all the bowl cuts from the Vulcans? Like, I like that they're trying new things, and I think that when you're trying so many new things, you may not nail them all, but... They're nailing Saru. Yeah. They're nailing, I think, the combination of Cardassian and Bajoran that is very much a part of the President Relic's character. There's just a lot they really are nailing. So I think there's a very specific reason why people want to pick out the little things that they're not nailing. And
I think so too. But I do think that there are certain things that are so beloved that maybe don't need to be changed so much. Because there's very obvious reasons why they changed the Klingons from the original series to TNG and Deep Space Nine. But I think people love that era, and it's okay to like be upset over it, but not about everything that they changed. Like you've got to make some changes. I don't think that you need to make changes to like the most beloved things per se. Like I don't think people really care if you change the Tellarites too much because they're not exactly a beloved character. But if you start messing with the Klingons and the Vulcans look very similar. The haircuts are slightly updated.
They look and at the heart of them, they're the same.
Yeah.
Like they didn't put a Ferengi in this episode in like a simple tunic. Yeah. We got the necklace going on. Yeah. We've got the blazer.
Like
we've got the
flashy.
Yes, they're true to the character. So as long as you're doing that, I'm fine. Yeah. I'm fine.
I agree.
Anyway, now do you want to rate this episode, Jordan?
I think we do. I think you go first, and then I will
go first. I give it a 10, honestly. I loved this episode, so I gave it a 10. 10 because that's how many years away we are from having a woman president and apparently starting a nuclear war because periods.
All right. I give it a 7. I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. For especially the second half or the later portion, probably might have been a 6 had it not ended strong and kind of added that tension between Burnham and Book coming to a head. And I might also be lumping in the fact that I saw the Next Time On trailer, which has gotten me excited. So I will give it a 7. The Star Trek Wars Council gave it a 5.75, bringing the overall score to a 7.58. So
thanks.
Yeah, Jocelyn, thanks to you, a pretty solid score. And myself, the fans at home, really dogging this week's episode.
I thought people were going to love it. I don't know why. I really loved it. I loved it. Maybe I am
I don't-
like a talkie Trek fan. I don't know.
I'm not sure why this was getting a lower score from the council as the
Yeah.
away mission with the cadets, but we have a next time on Jocelyn for Star Trek Discovery.
Yes, I do.
Oh, excellent. Go ahead, hit us with it.
Yeah, they're really going there next time. In an abrupt about face, President Rillick breaks with her previous stance on the DMA and joins Booker and Space Elon Musk on their mission to blow up the thing they don't like. After completing their mission, however, Rillick steals Book's ship and goes rogue on a galactic killing spree, eviscerating worlds and leaving destruction in her wake for about 5 to 7 days, crying the whole time, eating chocolate like she's Deanna Troi, and as is obviously by now because she got her period, so that's what happens.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, it's just nature, Jordan. It's just what happens. It's why we don't record on a full moon, you know?
That's why we record during the day. No full moons.
Exactly.
Although I guess the moon's still full. We just can't see it. My next time on is...
Heresy.
Sorry. Burn him. The replicator joins Starfleet and begins studying the medical field. It decides it will no longer make unhealthy foods for the crew, such as burgers, fries, milkshakes. Instead, it will only make a smoothie containing the daily nutritional requirements of each individual on the ship. Kovich, who was once a chef, agrees with the changes and sides with the replicator. Anyone who disagrees with the replicator will be shipped off to a new ship, which at that point, I think everyone would just get shipped out of there. So,
Oh my goodness.
that's my next time on.
That's a nightmare.
Yes, I did have a couple new burning questions, so if we want to go there and see kind of if you have any questions regarding what's coming up, which we should. It's good. There's been a few episodes this week where like the burning question is the same or we don't have anything. Like this, at least, this episode gives us things to discuss and things to look forward to, which is not always the case at the end of an episode because of the serialized nature and kind of being strung along. But we're getting somewhere, Jocelyn. So any burning questions?
I do. I want to know, my burning questions are, will the DMA actually be destroyed?
Okay.
And will that catapult us into some kind of war with this new species? Will Burnham reach Book in time and change his mind? Because I don't really know if that's going to happen. And will they continue to be my favorite space couple of all time?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I got to go Han Solo and Leia.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Way better.
Okay, but they break up, you know.
No, that didn't happen.
Okay.
Okay.
Hashtag not my Star Wars.
I do not acknowledge that.
You don't acknowledge that as canon?
No, I do not.
You don't see the inherent flaw in their relationship?
No flaws. Well, the fact that they had a son who's a douche, yeah, I mean, that's a flaw.
I mean, that's one of them. Total douche.
I will say I do have a couple burning questions. There's something I was going to say that I just forgotten. Dang it. Who is species 10C is the obvious one. Like, what species is going to be? I would imagine it's someone that we've seen before. Just not in several hundred years, probably, and they've advanced to a certain level. I don't know. It could be a new species. I just feel like the way Discovery does storytelling, like you asked, are we going to go to war? I don't think that's going to happen because Star Trek Discovery is all about right now, like emotions and talking to each other and discussing things, and more like the core ideals of the Federation. So I think it just flies in the face of what they've been doing so far to go to war with someone. I also feel they've kind of painted themselves into a corner with the whole Zora arc because, like, I guess not everyone watches the short treks, so they kind of get around that. But the fact that they give a kill switch, or that Zora presents the kill switch for herself, we've seen the future. We know it's not going to happen. So, like, that's very anticlimactic storytelling for me because I know there's literally zero chance that they are going to delete Zora. But they play it as like this super dramatic, violin music, like dun dun dun, like is Stamets gonna push the button and kill Zora? Like, so that's part of the thing for me. I will also say that I'm interested to see where Tarka is from and who his quote-unquote friend is, because there's no reason for him not to give the friend's name unless it's someone that we know. Right? Because he'd be like, yeah, my friend
okay.
Greg, like I've been trying, or Sheila, whoever it is.
Brian, who we were imprisoned in the lab together.
I'm wondering, like, because they make a point of him not talking to Stamets until they meet in person. Like, maybe it's Mirror Stamets or something, or different universe Stamets or something. I can't really think of anyone else that makes a ton of sense. But, yeah, anyways.
I mean, it's obviously his boyfriend, and that does make me like him a little more, knowing that he can love something or someone, because...
Maybe. He just says friend, but it seems like there's the lengths that he's going through, I would imagine it's deeper than that, but I could be wrong.
They're in love. So it may be that Space Elon Musk is not a narcissist, and he's just
definitely is.
Blinded by love and is willing to do whatever it takes to get
I think it's
his
both.
person. So this is a romance.
Sure.
Disco is a...
And also, just because you love someone does not mean everything you do is justified. Like...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Like Yellowstone.
Have you watched it, by the way?
Anyway, no,
Just
but I read
16
it online.
speed?
That's the same thing.
No. I got to the season 3 finale and realized that season 4 is not available yet because, okay, it's time for another Paramount Plus rant. Yellowstone is streamed on Paramount Network, which is a channel that I guess you can get if you pay for cable or Hulu Live
like
TV.
a physical TV channel?
It's a physical TV channel, and it's the biggest hit they've ever had.
You have to wait
by far
for a thing to be on in order to watch it?
Kind of. Unless you have on-demand, like through cable. You obviously can record it or watch it that way. And
I didn't know there were still those channels.
Yellowstone is exclusively streamed on Peacock, which is owned by NBC. Because they, I guess, came to some agreement that they would have the exclusive streaming rights before the show aired or something. So as it's currently constructed, their deal is that Peacock will stream Yellowstone, but season 4 won't be available on Peacock until after it's completed and a few months later. So probably like February, we'll get Yellowstone season 4.
Interesting.
So yeah, I don't know what's happened. And season 3, the last episode was very slow, and then it built up, and the last 10 minutes were bonkers, and I want to know what happened, and now I can't. So,
and now you can.
Yep.
This is hard to be you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a great feeling. I feel like Mrs. Dutton pinned underneath a horse. Anyways, all right, Jocelyn.
I totally get that reference.
Anything else you want to talk about before we depart?
No, I just farewell to all until February and try to get by.
The good news is February is the shortest month of the year, so
it is.
Yeah.
That's science.
Yeah, it'd be more helpful if January was the shortest because we got to get through this whole month. But
it would be so much better. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Star Trek Wars. We will return in February after Discovery's mid-season break, just in time to be your Valentine. We will be reviewing the 8th episode of season 4. Until then, computer and program, but only if you feel like it.